I'm not a pen tester, and why you might not want to be one either. My name is Ryan from Elevate Cyber. I'm going to break down this article from the perspective of a pen tester with over 8 years experience in the field, working pen testing jobs in multiple Fortune 500 companies, US government, and freelancing. Yeah, so with that out of the way, let's jump into this. Now, one of the first things that this person says is that they have only been a pen tester for a very short time before leaving the position. This is really important to note as we go through this article to really put this stuff in perspective. This article, by the way, it starts off actually pretty decent, like with the points that they're making, but it very quickly goes downhill. It goes very downhill towards the end. So definitely stick to the end of the video. I think it's going to be both entertaining and very informative for you guys that are learning pen testing and may be discouraged by this stuff. So, okay, yeah, like one of the first things is right here where they say that not a good programmer, even that great with Linux. They still have to man page most of the job. I'm constantly saying, why doesn't this work? They give an example command. Oh yeah, the file path comes after the permissions. Okay, first of all, I wouldn't say that the ability to regurgitate commands is what makes someone good or bad at Linux or even programming for that matter. But maybe this is just a crude example. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and move forward here. So 5 years ago, when I started all of this, I really wanted to work in security, like really wanted to work in it. Be careful what you wish for. I am not a pen tester, and here is what I wish everyone would have told me before I tried to be one. I actually agree here, following your passion is pretty bad advice in general, and I could make a whole video out of this basically, but essentially passion is something that you can develop through the pursuit of mastery and things like that. If you really want some more info on this, a very good book that I recommend is actually Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. But yeah, let's move forward here. Talks about the job market next, and says, take a look at where these stats are coming from. A lot of times it's coming from an organization that does what? Offers cybersecurity training. Weird, huh? So here's the reality of the company that I work for. I can't speak for every company, but the company that I currently work for, I started working there in November of 2021, and they've been hiring for that position since 6 months before I joined. So since May of 2021, they've had this job opening, and they couldn't find anyone to fill the role. And here's the thing, they've also had like a second opening for that same role open since May of 2021. And even still to this day, at the time of recording, it's February 2nd, 2024, they haven't found anyone for that second role. So I can tell you firsthand that, yeah, there are a lot of job openings out there. And I can also say that out of all the layoffs and stuff that people are freaking out about, there's not a single person on the cybersecurity team in my company that got laid off. And in fact, go even further than that, I don't know anyone in my cybersecurity network that was even impacted by these layoffs. And so another thing is, this is very common here, they want 5 years experience in OSCP for an entry-level position. Actually, this is very common in the field, but what you have to understand is that these requirements are not actually hard requirements, even if they claim that they are. I've never once in my life applied to a pen testing job that I met the requirements for. And to take it a step further, I don't even know anyone in the field that has met all the requirements for the job that they applied to and later landed. So here's the truth. There are ways that you can get an entry-level position in pen testing, like a true entry-level position, but you have to have some experience. Entry-level doesn't mean no experience, it means some experience. And he's saying not hack the box, try hack me, web dev, sysadmin, and also saying later that, .NET programmers and stuff have an excellent chance of getting scooped on an internal team, due to a lateral movement in the company and all of this. This is very true, actually. Pen testing is extremely oversaturated at the entry level. I talk about this a lot. The best solution to this challenge, by the way, is to rise above the entry level, because if you can go beyond the entry level, that's where the actual demand is. And so that's something that I've been working very closely with my students with, is seeing like, okay, how can we position them in a way that helps them stand out, and not only developing that skill set, but also standing out from what all these thousands of people, they all have the same things on their resume and things like that. So doing that can go a very long way, and that's how I was able to help 4 people in the last month get jobs in cybersecurity. If you want some guidance, on how to maybe optimize your path and how to get into the field, send me a DM to my Instagram at Elevate Cyber. But yeah, the second point that he's making here about the lateral movement within the current company, this is actually a great piece of advice here. This is something that I did years ago when I first got into the field. I was working in IT, made the lateral movement over to the cybersecurity team within the same company. So the days of getting your OSCP and instantly having an interview with EY are long gone. This is also true. Nowadays, having your OSCP doesn't guarantee you anything. Personally, I know a lot of people that have their OSCP right now and they're struggling to even land interviews. I don't say this to scare you, but I just say this so that you understand that experience is the X factor. Experience is king in this field. And so that's another reason that I've been making some recent pivots with the students that I'm working with, where now I'm guaranteeing them job experience because, like I was saying, out of the thousands of people applying to these entry-level jobs, the one thing they all have in common is they have no experience. And that's the advantage of this field, that there are ways to get experience. It's not like if you wanted to become a doctor or a lawyer where you couldn't get any experience until you landed a job at like some big firm or big company. There's ways to gain experience in this field. So get in good with a team, transition over to security. The team is going to know your strengths and weaknesses so they won't feel annoyed or duped that they hired someone that can't code the new pool party, POC, and NIM. Okay, this is a classic example of the imposter syndrome mindset. And I think it's very clear by this point that this person has imposter syndrome in really everything that they do. And this is based on the language that they're using to describe their skills with Linux and all of this stuff. So here's the thing, right? You assume that your coworkers are all these super elite hackers, when in reality, most of them are probably not up to date on the latest hot tradecraft, let alone even know what NIM is. I bet there's a lot of people that work as pen testers don't even know what NIM is, right? He says, also, most people in security have egos and feel the need to inject their technical dominance onto everyone online. It will be different talking in person to a mid-level operator that can talk to a hiring manager on your behalf. So this seems like an overgeneralization to me personally. I haven't experienced this at all in any of the pen testing jobs I worked in. Funny enough, I've only ever experienced this in IT, which is where this person is coming from, right? And to be fair, you could encounter this in any tech-based job. You can encounter it in any job for that matter, but in the tech fields, you're more likely to come across this. This is nothing unique to cybersecurity at this point here. Since we're on the subject of the job market, it's 2024. Have you seen the layoffs? I mean, how are people starving for talented cyber people when every tech firm is laying people off? Okay, I can pretty easily explain this one. Most devs and engineers were massively overhired in the last few years, the whole learn to code movement and stuff. Sadly, what was happening is these companies were essentially what we call employee farming to appease their stakeholders. So basically the way it works is they're able to artificially show growth because we're just constantly hiring more and more people. In reality, most of these jobs shouldn't even have existed in the first place. And that is what is skewing these layoff numbers so much higher than they otherwise would be. And the fact still remains that there's a massive shortage of qualified people in the field of cybersecurity. The job market is hot for cyber people, but cyber people that have 10 years experience as a web app pen tester, client-facing consulting experience, CVEs that have given talks at conferences, they won't have a problem finding a home. Okay, this is a massive over-exaggeration here. I mean, yeah, sure, if you fit that bill, sure, right? But in reality, you don't need all of this. Actually, like I said, we got 4 people cybersecurity jobs last month alone. They didn't have any of these things. I think the problem is that you have the same basic skills and you're marketing yourself in the same way as everyone else. You need to find what these employers are actually looking for, and you need to learn how to actually stand out in addition to building your skills. The market is hot for web app people. Why? Because if you're worth it at web apps, you're doing bug bounty, you're making 4 to 5 times what a consulting firm is willing to offer. Okay, this is also straight up not true. As someone that has worked in the field for over 8 years, I can say the actual reason that web pen testing is so high in demand is that there are massive amounts of web apps that these companies have, right? And all of these need to be tested, right? You have like internal web apps for employees, you have the external facing web apps for the customers, right? You have so many of these and they need to be tested. And so I can instantly tell that this person does not do bug bounty, okay? Because anyone that has actually done bug bounties will tell you that it is difficult. It's not simply if you're worth a shit, you'll make 4 to 5 times the amount. Actually, the opposite is true. I've seen so many pen testers think about leaving their jobs to do bug bounties instead, only to find out that the amount that you make is a lot lower for the same amount of time and effort. So most bug bounty hunters have other sources of income. It's just not sustainable for the vast majority of people. And if you really want to be successful in this, you have to find interest in more than just the money side of it. On a side note, have you noticed how many training sites there are now? It's like people are making more money teaching hacking than actually doing it. Every time I turn around, I see a new EDR evasion, malware dev, real hacker training course popping up. Strange, huh? So I think this is awesome, actually. And if you don't want the training, I mean, just don't get the training. Having choice and options is a great thing. I buy a ton of courses and trainings on the things that I'm interested in. And I will say that it has helped me learn immensely faster than if I was trying to find this stuff by just randomly scouring the internet. It's such a waste of time, honestly. I will make the disclaimer that I do offer paid training as well. I'll tell you guys that up front. And I had a very good year last year, but even still, I made a lot more money from my 9-to-5 pen testing job. And I would assume that there's probably a lot of people in that camp as well that are offering training. All right, the next thing they go on to talk about is consulting. I haven't worked in consulting, so I won't really comment on this. And if you guys have worked in consulting, is there any truth to this? I don't know. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys on this. The next part that I want to go into is right here. Internal teams are always better. There is usually not as much reporting. If there is a report, it can be tackled by the entire team, or if the team is high speed enough, a staff technical writer. I will say, I have a tech writer in my current job. Tech writers are great. They're awesome. In my previous jobs, I didn't have tech writers, and it did make the process a lot more tedious. But yeah, internal teams are awesome. And I would say that if you want to work on an internal team, that's a good goal to aim for. Personally, like I said, I've never had any experience doing any consulting work like they're referring to. But if it was my first opportunity, I'd be willing to take it just to get the experience and then move on to internal. Junior pen testers need to understand how they look to consulting firms. In the world of business, if you're not bringing money into the company, you're costing the company money. Pen testers don't bring in money, salespeople do. Okay, first of all, this is true for all entry-level employees across all fields. This is not unique to cyber, right? If you are like an entry-level anything, you're costing the company money. So they're taking a loss to train you up. I mean, that's just how like the world works, right? I mean, yeah, nothing really else to say on this, really. I don't want to waste time on it. As a pen tester, you're interchangeable with somebody that has just as much skill, but comes at a lower price. And in this job market, there are a lot of highly skilled operators desperate to make their mortgage after Rapid7 gave them the boot. Think they won't take a job for 90K so they don't get their house repossessed? Yeah, okay. Okay, so first thing, soft skills matter a lot more than people think. It seems pretty clear, by the way, from the way the person is talking that yeah, they clearly lack them, right? Even if soft skills didn't matter, then why would this be any other way than what they're saying here? Like, why wouldn't this be the case, you know? And so let me just give you guys an analogy. Let's say you have two options of Nike Air Force Ones to buy, the shoes, right? Let's say they're both completely identical and one is $50 cheaper than the other. Which one would you like? Which one are you going to buy? I mean, come on, right? This is just common sense, But in reality, with people, right, there's more to it than that, right? There's like your soft skills, like how are you to work with, right? There's a number of factors. But the key really is that you never want to be in this situation to begin with. This is why my channel is called Elevate Cyber. If you have to compete on price, you've already lost. You should have some other quality of value that will make you, unique and benefit a team rather than just having to compete on price. Unfortunately, because of the rise of offensive security training, there are more hackers out there than ever. Junior or mid-level pen testers will find it extremely hard to find a gig right now and probably for the foreseeable future. My prediction is that it'll only get harder and we'll see more people with cybersecurity certs trying to make their way into other IT fields like cloud, system administration, or web app dev. Okay, again, I think this is a great thing. Cybersecurity is getting better. That's what this means. Look, I think a lot of people in offensive security, they need to be reminded of this. The purpose of us even existing is so that cybersecurity can get better. That's what we're trying to do. That's the end goal. And so this is just proof that, look, cybersecurity is leveling up. It's getting better. This can only be a good thing. And also, we have more learning options than ever before. I can't see that as anything else other than a good thing. Am I off base here? Let me know in the comments section down below. But here's the thing as well. People can get all the certs under the sun. Experience will always be king. And that's why I made this pivot with my students by guaranteeing job experience. Because yeah, experience is like more important than anything else. And at the end of the day, the skilled people, they'll always be able to find opportunities in this field. And also, becoming skilled will always be attainable for all people because most people are either lazy or will just give up like this person. Think about it this way. People like the person that wrote this article is the reason why you'll always be able to find opportunities in this field. People will just give up. They'll whine, they'll complain, they'll write long articles on Medium, right? And they'll post it all over Twitter. People like this are the reason that you'll always be able to find opportunities. Imagine how many people got discouraged and fled after reading this article. This is your competition, by the way. How sad, right? So think again, now they go into salary, right? think again, if you think you're going to make 150K, senior level pen testers make really good money. When I was a pen tester, I made 120K. It was 5K less than I was making as a sysadmin at the time. But I took the job because I wanted to be in security. Yes, you read that right. I took a pay cut to get into security. Look, let's just take a step back here, okay? I'm sorry, let's just take a step back. You were in pen testing for probably less than a year. I don't even know how long. In the top of the article, you said a very short time and then you quit, right? So it's probably less than a year, and this was your first job in cybersecurity. Let's calm down here for a second, guys. So I don't understand the entitlement here. In reality, this is the reality, by the way. Your company took a loss to hire you, even though you were entry level. They paid you over a 6-figure salary, which, by the way, is a lot higher than I made my first year in this field. And to top it off, that company had to eat that loss because you quit after, quote unquote, a very short time. So let's continue on here. If you get an offer, it will be between 85 to 120K. That is the truth. Might sound decent, but you can make more money as an Azure admin. When I transitioned from security back to sysadmin, I made 40K more. I didn't have to deal with reports, clients, or billable hours. Okay, first of all, you've had your entire career built up in IT, so you can't compare your IT experience that you have like tons of years of experience with versus cybersecurity where you only worked for a very short time and it was your first job, right? You can't compare those two, right? If you had no experience in IT, you probably wouldn't be making more than 120 as your first job, right? So anyways, this is a normal range, by the way, for your first job as a pen tester. The numbers they give here. Actually, I would say on average it's even lower. 80 to 100K is what I typically say. But the reality is you can spike this up extremely quickly. And that is if you don't cry and give up like this person. You can easily go from 80K to 100, over 150K in just 2 to 3 years. And how do I know this? I've seen many people do this. I've helped many people do this. I've done this myself. So yeah, let's continue on. When I was working as a pen tester, I did 60 to 65 hour weeks. I felt as if it were silently expected, as did other people on the team. This is the reality. You will not work a 9 to 5. Security will be your life. If you're not on an engagement, you will be expected to go through the new hot course to level up. Okay, first of all, I'm just gonna say this. This is completely your fault. No one mandated you to do this. You voluntarily chose to do this. And honestly, this is one of the darker sides, guys, of imposter syndrome. Don't blame the job for this. This is your doing. And another thing I'll say is if you are doing high quality focused work, there is no way you're actually working for 60 to 65 hours a week. So in reality, you're probably being extremely inefficient with your time. You're probably like not focused. You're like wasting time. And if you're honest with yourself and really do a breakdown, I bet the actual amount of time that you're spending working is a fraction of that. So you'll be expected to get the latest OffSec cert, develop novel AMC bypasses, whatever. And all of this is after hours. Ever notice how many US-based cybersecurity people tweet after midnight? Ever notice how many US-based security people tend to be working on a Saturday afternoon? Okay, I don't see why this is framed as a negative thing. You should want to continue developing your skills in any field you choose to specialize in. Even if it's not cybersecurity, you should want to get better, right? Otherwise, like, what's the point? In terms of getting certs, you're not expected to. This is just your imposter syndrome talking. You're not expected to. It is optional. Just because you see other people getting certs doesn't mean that you have to get them as well. Again, this just comes down to someone's massive amounts of imposter syndrome, looking at what others are doing and thinking they're obligated to do the same. In reality, some of the best people I know in the field are not cert driven at all. They have very little certs, but they continue to level up and learn in other ways. You can level up and learn in this field without pursuing a cert. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew that, right? There are other ways. So this is also a great example of why you need to form your own goals rather than be so focused on what others are doing. Because, hey, if you don't have your own plan, your own goals for yourself, then someone else is going to make that for you. Your imposter syndrome is going to make that for you, and it might not be something that you want to do. It's something you enjoy doing, right? So this is why it's so important to have a plan, guys. And now going into the skills. Can you program in C, C#, Python, Perl, Ruby, Nim, Rust? Can you script in Bash, Perl, Python, PowerShell, or Bash, Perl, PowerShell, VB script? Yeah, me neither. For a lot of pen testing firms, you will need to know programming. They will give you a programming challenge, maybe two. Okay, this is extremely misleading. For most of the entry-level jobs, they don't give you any kind of programming challenge or anything like that. If you're gonna interview for like Google or like Amazon or something, you're gonna get like a programming challenge for sure. But most jobs, even my senior level pen testing interviews, like I had technical challenges related to hacking, but not programming. So yeah, this is just straight up not true. And by the way, you don't have to know, like no one knows all these programming language to developer level. You just need to learn one programming language. And then by knowing one language, you can easily figure out as much as you would need to know on the other languages to get by. Most of the time, when we're interacting with languages, we're just modifying someone else's script to get it working. So you only need like really basics that you could apply across the board to these other languages. You don't have to like learn all of them per se. Pen testers are expected to be experts in everything from .NET programming to Cisco switch configurations to Java deserialization. What BitLocker bypasses do you know? Have you ever set up Rogue AP? Do you know how to set DMARC, SPF for phishing? Okay, this is also straight up false. You don't need to know all these things. All right, like a doctor analogy. I make this all the time, but think of a doctor, right? Perfect analogy here. A doctor, there's so many parts of the body that you could, learn every detail in, but it's not possible, right? A doctor will specialize in a certain part of the body. Now, with that being said, there's general information that all doctors must learn when they go through like pre-med, when they go through med school and stuff like that. But eventually they specialize in a certain field, and based on what they specialize, maybe they need to know these nuanced things in that area, but they're not going to know like these super nuanced things in every single part of the body, right? This is not possible. Similarly, in cybersecurity, you have a general set of skills to get that initial opportunity, but then you specialize. And if you specialize in a certain area, maybe you need to know the intricacies of that, but not necessarily other things, right? When it comes to skills, you will be expected to either know it by heart or be able to learn it in about 30 minutes. Quick, what's the syntax to running secret dumps pi? Okay, there's very little value in memorization. I've said this before, I'll say it again. And most of the questions like these are very easy to either find in your notes, Google, or hell, even ask AI and get the answer in less than 30 seconds. So I think this is a very bad example here. Not really sure where they're going with that. Now going into the engagements, says, here's somebody that no one will tell you. When you're getting into security, all the cool shit you learned in your OffSec labs or even did on your own, you probably won't be able to actually do it. Say goodbye to PowerShell-based attacks. They weren't allowed when I was a pen tester. Why? Because it might get detected. The whole training that I did on PowerSploit had to find it a different way. Okay, this is only partially true. The reality is most of the reason that you're not able to do a lot of the techniques that you learned in these trainings and stuff is that they're out of date and they no longer work. A lot of these points also, I'll say they seem pretty anecdotal. After working for a number of different teams over the years, I'll say that different teams have different policies for what's permitted on a pen test. And another thing I've noticed is that more beginner heavy pen test teams, which it sounds like this person was in, tend to have more tight restrictions. And as you become more senior in the field, this issue goes away. But this blog poster, they won't know that because they gave up before even getting past junior level, right? What I'm saying is that you're not going to be able to go full auto on client networks. Many people getting into pen testing don't understand this and think what they did on their CRTO exam will cut the mustard. Your firm will be restrictive, way more restrictive than you might think. So as much as this person is complaining about it, this is the reason that people with just an OSCP or a bunch of certs don't automatically get the job, because experience is very important, right? You can't go full auto, right? Like they said, I guess they didn't make that connection, but they're complaining that just the cert alone won't get you the job. And then they explain how, something they learned in the cert wasn't relevant for the job as much as they thought, right? This is the reason experience trumps everything, guys. And then they touch on EDR for some strange reason. Another thing that people don't consider is the reality of EDR, SIM, whatever you want to call it, is getting much more prevalent in client networks. Behavior-based detections will take over in the next 10 years due to AI. Getting past these defenses is only going to get harder. Will there be a way? Sure. But whether the industry wants to admit it or not, a lot of companies will start dumping yearly and quarterly pen tests after operators stop finding ways to get in. Okay, for one thing here, I think they're conflating pen testing with red teaming. In reality, these are two different things. As a pen tester, you won't even typically have to deal with EDR. If there is EDR, they'll probably disable it for your pen test. Again, your mileage may vary, but red teaming, by the way, is not as entry-level friendly as pen testing. But anyhow, the notion that AI is going to magically halt pen testers, I think, seems pretty far-fetched. This claim has been made, keep in mind, this claim has been made with pretty much every major technology that's come out in the last 20 years. Oh, pen testers are not going to be, needed anymore, and we've automated pen testing, right? How many times have you heard that for you guys who've been in this space for a period of time, right? Also keep in mind that the defense is not the only party that is going to incorporate AI. In fact, hackers are already using AI. My company recently, the other day, there was a meeting that was all about. They were talking about ways that hackers are using AI in the wild and how we can prevent against them as a company to stay more protected against these attacks. So, let's say that EDR uses some kind of AI solution, which it probably will. Well, just as there's AI-based EDR, there's going to be AI-based EDR bypasses. So chew on that for a little bit. Yeah, you're not going to have to worry about your job going away or anything like that going forward. So what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you want some guidance, like if you're not buying into the fact that pen testing sucks, right? If you're still here, then definitely send me a DM to my Instagram at ElevateCyber, and we'll get you on the path, and we'll get you in this field, and avoid this doomer stuff. The field is awesome. I can tell you that from the other side. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.